Hello. Today's class we are going to look at pointer to nested structure. The last class I just taught you nested structure. So why am I teaching you pointer to nested structure? You will notice that every time I teach you a class, I always teach you pointer to that class. Why? Because this is one of the key major power of what? C language. Meaning it allows you to access certain data from a different location. That is the beauty of um, pointers. So what I want to show you now is, for example, you don't necessarily have to step your foot into the land of your ancestors, meaning your community, in order to access its power. Just like Daniel. Daniel was in exile, yet he was able to access the power of the temple, even though the temple has been destroyed. Why? Because Daniel had the address to the spiritual location of the temple. So you could access its function and still use it. That is the power of pointer in C. So last class, I demonstrated nested structure. So in this class, I'm going to show you pointer to nested structure, meaning you can access that same value inside the structure without necessarily going to that location where the structure is. That is the concept of what? Pointer to nested structure. So I'm going to use that same example of the last class to teach you this. So I will say include stdio.h, and then I'm going to declare the same address structure. So struct address, right? Then inside it, I will have char city, and I'll give it 20 byte array, and then zip int zip. So we'll close this, right? Then I will create the structure, the person structure. So I'll say struct person, and then inside it, I will say char name, and we also give 20 bytes to it, and then int age, and then struct address. Then we are creating a variable for this address structure, so we'll call it ADDR, right? Then I'm going to close this. So I'm going to call my main function now where everything is going to take place. So I'll say int main. Then inside this main, I'm going to create a variable for this person structure. So I will say struct person p1, right? And I will assign values to it. So the same thing we did. So this time around, I'm calling it info, right? Age 35. Let's use another age. So age 40. And then to access this address, so Lagos, comma, then zip 101. So this is for this, and this one is for this. That ends it. I hope you can still see what I wrote there. So I have declared that. Now this is the catch, the whole essence of this class. I'm going to create a pointer that will point to this. So that pointer is in a different location. What is a pointer? A variable that holds the address of another variable. So the address of this P1 is what is going to be stored in that pointer. And through that pointer, I can access all these values and alter everything that is inside without necessarily making contact with this guy. I don't have to go to that place, but I know the address where it is and I can access it. So that is what I want to do now. So I will create a pointer to this. So the pointer is what? Struct person, right? And then pointer asterisk, let's call it PTR. And this pointer will point to what? Address of P1. So that is it. So I've created a pointer, and the pointer is pointing to the address of P1. Now I'm going to use this pointer to access this. So to do that, I will say printf name. So here, %s/n. So what this expression, what is he expecting? Now I'm using the pointer PTR. So it will be what? PTR pointing to what? To what? Name. To name. PTR name. And then I will close. So printf so to access, this one is to access the name. So I want to access the location. Let's leave the age. Let's access location. So I will say city %s/n, comma, PTR, right? You can see this city is inside this structure. So PTR, then you have the arrow pointing to what? Address. Then when you get to this address, to access its member, it will now be what? Dot. You use the dot operator to access city. So that's the difference. So in this one, PTR is accessing the name directly, but to access the city, the pointer is pointing to this address because the pointer is pointing to, since this one is inside, to the variable of this is inside this place. So the pointer is pointing to it. Now, when it gets to this address, it will now access its member using the dot operator. It won't use arrow again, it will use the dot. That's the difference. In the last class, we did the variable, which is P1, dot the address dot city. But in the case of a pointer, it is pointer arrow address dot city. So this operator accesses this, and then inside it, you now use the dot operator to access the city. So the same way you're going to access the zip, right? So I can end my program there, and I'll say return 0. Then I close this. So this is my program. So it will print out the same thing. To print out name, and then to print out city. So this one will give us name. To give us name as what? Mfon. And then to give us city as what? Lagos. That is what is going to print out on the screen. So through a pointer, you can access the values of these structures without necessarily stepping your foot into your community. So all you need to do is know the address of your community. So the physical community is actually housing the address of the blueprint. Once you know it, even if that physical community is destroyed, you can still access the values that are in it and use it. That was what Daniel did. Even though the temple was destroyed and Daniel was in exile, because Daniel already has the address of the temple, which is what? The spiritual address that has all the values inside. Daniel could still use the pointer. That is why he has to open his window, pointing to Jerusalem. He could still access what the functions and the values that were inside that temple and still use them in his life while he was in exile. That is the power of what? Pointer in C. So that is what I want to show you in this class, or just to show you what? Pointer to what? Nested structure. So let's go to code blocks. Let me demonstrate this for you to see. This is our code blocks. Now I'm going to show you the demonstration of what? Pointer to nested structure, what we did in the class. I'm just going to run the script for you to see. So as you can see, I have my address structure created, my person structure created, and then the address structure inside the person structure. So I'm creating a variable for the person structure. Then I'm creating a pointer that points to the address of that variable. and I'm using that pointer to access the members. So you can see this part of the address of the city and the zip. So the pointer pointing to the address, and then using the dot operator to access the member of address structure. So let's run this program for you to see what the output will be. Okay, still the same pattern. So bring this up so you can see. So printf, name will print out in phone using the pointer. H will print out 40, city will print out Lagos, and zip will print out 1001. So you can still access the members or your destiny through your community, even without stepping your foot on the soil of your community. That is the essence of pointer. So till we see in the next class. Bye-bye.